Sorry guys, I think that was some problem with the sound. So we're gonna have to do all of that again. Sorry about that. Welcome. Hello guys. So a little bit delayed here, but we had some technical problems there. Sorry about that. This is the first live stream in a series of live streams about basic guitar playing, about developing our skill on the guitar. Hope you're still there, although I went on so long without the sound. I hope it's working now, by the way. If it doesn't work, you let me know. It looks like it's working here now. That was my mistake. So I'm really happy to today be talking to you about how to develop our skill on the guitar. And what I found out over time is that the most important thing actually to practice is the very basic core elements of our guitar playing, the very foundational movements and positions that we're using. So just like if you're going to make a house, you want to use what you're going to use the most of the material from, you want it to be really good. And we're going to just look into how to really improve the very core elements of our guitar playing. And I'll be showing to you a set of exercises that are designed to train the very core elements of our playing. And we're going to start off with something very, very basic, which is the right hand pluck. Of course, we use it all the time. Almost every time we're using the right hand pluck. So it may seem too extremely simplified, but here's the point. We need to get really, really good at this because we're going to use it all the time. You're going to be using plucking in the right hand all the time. So we want to be really good at that. So in this exercise, we're going to look at 3 points. All right, so there's 3 things we're training here. And one is the preparation. That's the first step. The preparation is the very point on the finger which you put the string. So where you put the string before we're going to play. That's the preparation. And that's important that we do it in a way that we're already touching. As soon as we touch the string, we're touching with the nail and with the flesh at the same time, okay? That is a very important point. We're gonna get more into detail to that later. Step number 2 is the pluck, all right? And of course we can make many different colors and play in many different ways, but the stroke, in my mind, the ideal stroke should be resemble as much as this movement we make if you're making a fist. So it's the very most natural movement of the hand is this kind of grabbing movement, or sort of create, which goes towards the fist. So in these exercises, what we're going to do, we're going to pluck the string and using a stroke that goes all the way into the finger, into the hand like this. Right? This is a little more exaggerated than you would perhaps do normally when we play, but in order to get as a good pluck as possible, we're going to do it this way. So we're going to basically extend the finger all the way in to the hand. Very important, what we don't want to, we're moving from here only, all right? Because this is not really so natural, you know. If you can try yourself, you just do this. This is not as strong and natural as this. It should be just the same as if you're opening a door handle or you're doing something, you know, you do every day. You just don't even think about it. But that's the very, very best movement you can have. So as we're going into these exercises, we have prepare, then we have pluck. You see, I'm going all the way into the hand. Now the third step. This is a kind of a pretty cool thing, but basically if you don't do anything, if you hold the finger like this, brought it all the way into the hand. Now if you don't do anything and just relax, it goes back by itself, right? That's just the way the finger will do. So if I'm totally relaxed and I just push my finger in like this, and now I'll let it go, so it will just kind of automatically pop back just by itself. All right, so from just relaxing the finger, it will move back into a relaxed position, which is then ideally pretty close to there where we start again. So prepare, pluck, relax, prepare, pluck, relax. That is very, very simple exercise, but this is one of the core exercises. So prepare, pluck, relax, prepare, pluck, relax, prepare, pluck, relax. And it's very easy to do a mistake here. So troubleshooting is make sure that you're not consciously bringing the finger back. Then it will look more like this. Prepare, pluck, bring it back. When you really relax it, there's a kind of a, you see, it just falls back by itself. Okay, we're going to continue with the M finger. And as you can see, the other fingers, I'm just simply holding them on the strings, also in kind of a prepared, ready to play state. The fingers are touching, the nails are touching the string, the flesh and the nail is touching. Okay, M, prepare, pluck, relax, prepare, pluck, relax, prepare, pluck, relax. Okie dokie. You can see the A finger. Prepare, pluck, relax, prepare, pluck, relax, prepare, pluck, relax. And with this exercise, you will develop accurate finger movement. You will develop accurate preparation, and you will develop a very powerful thing, which is more relaxation into your standard pluck, which you're using all the time. All right. So, of course, when you're playing a fast scale or something, you don't even have time to think about what that thing is doing. But what happens is when you train the pluck on its own, just like this, isolated, little by little, day by day, each and every other pluck you do will be more and more like this one. This is what happens when you use these exercises over a long time. So the beauty of it is that without even having to focus on anything else than this, all these core elements in your playing gets like improved or reprogrammed, or let's say refined in the programming. All right? And that's also why even if you do them for some time and then you stop, it can also change. What is our current playing is not, in many ways, is something we develop, but it's also something we need to maintain. All right, I hope everything is working properly now, and we have some people tuning in here. And you can, of course, ask questions. So please feel free to put comments. We're on YouTube, we're on Facebook. Do send comments if you like. And I will try to answer them. All right, so before we move on, I also want to just say something which is even more basic, perhaps. And that's always worth mentioning when we do talk about these core technical exercises. Because now I was talking about the right hand and plucking and how to get a good pluck. It should be also noticed that if our other sort of sitting position, for example, if our hand is very flat like this or something, to actually do these exercises will be very hard. Because, for example, in this case, if our wrist here is too low, for example, then it's very hard to find that space in the hand. As you see, when I'm having the wrist a little higher, I can really get that space inside the hand that we want. Okay? A good thing to think about, why should we have a little bit of an angle here? It's because if it's too flat here, our arm gets tense, right? Do you see that? How if I'm making this flatter, this part of the hand just sort of came more tense. So a good sign is when this is relaxed, the whole arm is sort of just lying on top here. That's a really good sign for the right hand, and that becomes sort of like a pivot for the arm. And from here we can move to all kinds of different places, all kinds of different colors, all right? And when your position really is good, then you should be able to move very easily inside the hand. That I talked about before, that basically the idea of improving our core movements is to make them as natural as possible. All right, we're going to now move on, talk a little bit about the right hand. And here is another exercise in which we are going to, as you can see here, we're going to actually be using the 5th string here mostly. This is an exercise that will do many things, but more importantly than anything else, what it does is giving a really good concept of what is a good left hand position. All right? In the left hand, our fingers are of various thickness and various lengths, and let's say various capabilities. For example, the little finger is very small and very short. So in a way, the little finger can have more problems than the other fingers, or can be a weak spot in our technique. So the first thing that I always want to point out is that it's a mistake to make the little finger have to work too hard like this, to have to stretch. Our hand position should be pretty much balanced towards supporting the little finger. So you see how this finger is now in it's pushing down, 90 degrees into the fretboard, rather than coming from the side like this, where it can also push the string slightly out of position too, and also have a lot more tension than if we're just right over it, okay? Now, when we actually play on one string and we're able to have the string under, like in this case I'm playing on the 4th string, and my 3rd string, my G string here, I can play it open without being damped, okay? So if my hand position was more, you see, now I couldn't use the string just right under open. So you see, when the fingers are like this, they all have a kind of good curve to it, like an arc kind of. Then we can also play the string under open. So anyway, what we're going to do here in this exercise is use a slur, and we're going to do the very most, which I find the most important, is to establish a good balance between the 1st and the 4th finger, okay? This is kind of the first step in finding a balanced left hand. All right, so in this exercise, we're doing a slur on the 4th string in the 5th position, followed by an open string, okay? And then it looks something like this. See? Because I'm leaving the 1 and 4, I'm leaving them on. So if now my position would not have been very good, it would, see, the 3rd string here would not have been able to sound. Alright? But, so this, and also to pay attention to, is the placement of the thumb in this exercise. It's very common to not place our thumb in the optimal space. And what happens then if the thumb is, for example, too low? Also, you see, we end up in this kind of, everything is kind of very far-fetched for the hand, all right? Again, think about the naturalness, just like in the right hand we talked about closing a fist. Well, in the left hand it's the similar thing. So if we're closing our fist, you can see how the thumb is kind of ending up fairly high up here, all right? So if I had kind of a transparent fretboard, you could see the thumb just kind of a little slightly higher than the other fingers, all right? This is also why I like to do this exercise first on the 4th string, because that's kind of a neutral spot towards the other strings. Then from there, so doing the same on other strings, as you can see here. Okay? And it maybe goes without saying, but of course once you kind of feel very comfortable with 1 and 4, but I do recommend always to work on those first. Actually, when those are, when you feel very stable, when you feel that the 4 and the 1 here is like kind of pillars, it would be very easy, say 2 and 4 for example, 3 and 4. But it is based on a very firm balance between 1 and 4. When 1 and 4 are balanced, the other ones, 2 and 3, will balance very well with them too. All right, now we're going to talk a little bit about arpeggio. This is, of course, when it comes to core exercises, arpeggio is a very important part of classical guitar. And what I want to do in this exercise, which is a little different than maybe other arpeggio exercises, is we are going to do something which is called a speed burst. So after playing a particular pattern, which in this case is P-A-I-M, I like doing it in double speed, kind of like a speed burst. And then as we're practicing our arpeggios, it's also good to remember to practice it on the other strings, like here, going down a string and now going down to the lowest set of strings. Alright, now talking about arpeggios. In arpeggios we can talk about different types of preparations, and one of them is sequential preparation, and the other one is, we can talk about a block preparation, where you prepare all the fingers at the same time, and then, or you have basically no preparation. To get a little bit into understanding what sequential preparation is, which is a quite important thing to practice, is basically sequential preparation means that when you play one note at the same time, or to be more precise, right before you play a note, the next finger is already prepared, okay? Preparing on the string. And now, this of course relates to the first exercise that we did, where we were working on the preparation very deliberately. So, of course, it's important to have that very clearly understood first. What is that preparation with the nail and the flesh together, all right? What I like to do in this exercise is when I'm playing the slower version, as you can see here, I'm using a sequential preparation, see that? But when it gets to the fast one, I use no preparation. We continue playing this type of arpeggios now with different fingerings. As you can see, under the A will always be on the first string, M on the second, and I on the third string. But with these different permutations, for example, I go to the bottom one. Here's P, M, I, A. First doing sequential preparation in the slow one, and then no preparation in the second one. All right, this is, and if you're not really feeling, if you feel, get confused about the preparation, then the key is to study more the first exercise, which I just showed before, where we truly focus just on that which is preparation. So as you can see, already doing all of this is a simple arpeggio exercise only for the right hand. It's already more advanced than the other exercises. It already includes several of the different elements. So you can also say that it's quite hard to completely isolate any technical aspect. All right. Now we're going to come back to our second exercise. All right. Now we are going to use that similar pattern and similar idea of forcing our hand to be in a strong position because we are playing the string under. We're playing the string under it open, all right, just to make it harder. And this one, we're going to now work on shifts, all right? So take a little close look here at the notation. There is a tab here too. What is happening is we're starting to basically shift up. Now again, we're only doing it, it's almost like you can really need to figure out the very basic concept of shifting. And a few things is important to understand. When we shift, it should be only a change of position. So, all right, the arm is simply moving the hand into a new position. There should not be any change in the angle of the hand. That would just be sort of inefficient if I would, see? But not the slightest. It should be a little bit like, imagine if I was moving the guitar, all right? That's how a perfect shift would be. The hand just simply, it's like the hand is not even noticing because the arm is just moving the hand. The hand is just doing the same actually as the hand is just doing this, the fingers. But now the arm takes the hand. Let's have a look at the thumb. For many guitarists, overpressing with the thumb is a common problem. And it took me quite a few years to figure out how to really find the right pressure on the thumb. Not, you know, there shouldn't. It's obviously there as a kind of a guide, but the problem with the thumb, as soon as we start pressing too much, the whole hand gets tense. You can feel that if you tense your thumb, all the other fingers are almost inhibited in moving properly. And as you relax the thumb, ooh, so you can already just by that simple experiment, by having a tense thumb and a relaxed thumb, you can feel what incredible difference it does to the fingers. So the thumb should really not press too much. But what the thumb should do, in this case, in a shift, it's a guide. So it should slide very nicely on the back of your fretboard here, on the back of your neck. And actually, if you press too much, sliding will be hard, okay? And if you lift it off, obviously there won't be any sliding. So as you're doing these shifting exercises, as I'm doing this, I'm paying a lot of attention to my thumb here at the back. So it's there, it's not pressing, it's also not pressing. It's simply there as a guide, and it's sliding very nicely. All right? Like a guide. And if you feel that it's too easy, well, add 2 bars, 2 frets, 3. You can go. So you see, although it's a simple exercise, we can make it more complicated. Again, you can try different fingerings. So, it's like a whole little world of its own there. So that's what you were doing. That's my starting point. So again, have a close look there. The 4th string is with 1 and followed by an open string. And then 4, 4, and then basically just pulling these open strings in between there as a kind of a check to see if the fingers are in the right position or is it damping the open string. Again, paying a lot of attention to the thumb, gently sliding. So, and then by doing this exercise, especially by paying attention to the thumb here, you will notice that in other places where you have these shifts, all of a sudden Your thumb is sliding very nicely at the back. And also you will notice that this heightened focus on the tension and the placement of the thumb will simply improve your playing, because now the thumb, as you're more conscious of it, it can be much more of a guide rather than, it should not be some sort of heavy claw. The thumb should never be something, it should be something like a guide. The thumb should show you where to go, gently sliding at the back. All right, and now we're gonna go into another example of what a core exercise is. This has to do with the bar chord. So many guitarists, including myself, really have a problem with the bar chord, of course. It's one of those really difficult things on the guitar, and I know maybe for a lot of people you learn to play the chords, C, D's all fine, and then the time you have to learn F, then it's no fun anymore because that's the bar chord. Anyway, this is an awesome exercise for the bar chord, okay? So what we're going to do here is we're going to go to the 5th position, make a bar, and we're going to first focus in on strings 3 and 4, okay? Whoops. Here, so with the strings 3 and 4, I'm making it sound nice and warm, and I'm doing that by really pressing the middle part of the finger. So I'm really kind of doing that. Imagine you're stretching your belly a little bit. Oh, getting that, yes. And then I'm doing that so much. I'm really pressing just the middle part here so much that when I play strings 6 and 1, they're completely damp. Do you see that? And then we go on and do the opposite, where we play strings 6 and 1, the nice, clear, warm sound, but 3 and 4 are completely dead. Some of you may ask, what do we do with strings 2 and 5? Well, I would say this is the first one to start with. And then there are ways to make this exercise more advanced by also involving the other strings, but this is really the first step and the most important one. So when you can do this, then by being able to do that, by being able to distribute the weight of your bar chord evenly over the finger, you will have a much greater control of your bar chord. What happens in the bar chord very often, it's not that we need more pressure, we just need the right pressure. For example, it's very common that we're putting on the bar chord, basically string 1 is very sufficient, has sufficient weight, same with 6, and then but the middle ones are normally the ones that are a little buzzy, right, and lacking kind of clarity. And then solution is not to just press more, because that means yes, it will work by pressing more, but even better, for example, don't press more on the strings that you already press enough. Instead, with this exercise you will learn to individually distribute the pressure over the finger, right? At first you do this exercise, you might be a little bit, oh, this is hard, but just be a little patient. It's a simple yet difficult exercise. A minute to learn, a lifetime to master. All right? Now, we're coming to the end of this session, because these are just an introduction to some of these core exercises. If you want to learn more about this, the best way, of course, is one-to-one sessions, which I am given, and they're currently a special discount if you want to subscribe to private lessons. If you do want to learn the core exercises, yes, in about 5 lessons, one-to-one, you will have a complete understanding of the basic core exercises that I have created. Or also keep looking at these live streams. Next week we'll have another one which I will talk more about scale playing. Of course, scale playing is yet another level, and again, scale playing is sort of an example where many of these core elements of your playing needs to be working perfectly and come together in a perfect way. And of course, one of the things with scale playing is the right hand speed. And speed is a big subject that a lot of people ask. And something that it's of course certain methods by which we can develop it. The sheet music is block. Brian, interesting, the third string. Yes, the third string is, or whichever one it is that I'm using, it's a way for you to do, if I just play like this, how do I know that my hand position is not completely out? Well, this is a great trick. You trick with the string under. You can also do it, for example, with scales by playing. Always want the other string that is under it open. That kind of exercise is the same principle. But now I'm taking it with slurs, I'm using it with shifts, etc. Alright, now we're going to look a little bit at something that is quite known, I think, which is called the speed burst. Sorry, here we are. However, now I am in my speed burst here. I have a few alternative rhythms to what people might be used to. And that is, of course, because sometimes we start with M, sometimes start with I. And in order to not have to make sure that did I start with I, did I start with M, I have created some patterns that will automatically alter these because the rhythm. And the first one is. So in this case, you get M, I, M, I, M, I, M, I, M, I, M, I. So the same finger, it gets rotated, so you don't even have to think about which finger you start on. It will have the same effect. First one is. Alright, so when I do the speed burst, I recommend doing this on the second string, keeping my thumb here on the fifth string. I'm not aiming at the big fat sound in this case, although you might want to be able to do that. What we're wanting with this exercise is to develop this very, again, like a core kind of basic movement, alright? So actually what we want in this type of exercise is a kind of a very light movement, and we want to maybe use not too much of the nail. This you can do in free stroke or rest stroke. And of course you can use many different kinds of fingerings, and you can even, if you want to go crazy on this, you can even use the right hand. I mean the little finger in the right. You can use the right. You can use the little finger. Let's have a little closer look here. So before, yeah, it's blocking my face, but that is what you get. You have to see either my face or the sheet music. Why do I do it on the second string? Just for the sake of it. You can do it on any string really. But it's nice to do it. To start with, I like to do it on the second string. Also, because then I have to make sure I'm not hitting the first string. Of course, I can do it on. But it's a good starting point to start with the second string, thumb on the fifth string. And then you will see here I have a few other rhythms here too. We go with the second one. Third one. Again, because of the rhythm, the pattern, the finger pattern is all automatically altered. M, I, 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 M, I. Again, M, M, I, M, the point with those. Well, thank you guys so much for joining in today in this live stream. We didn't really have anyone has any questions, this is a great moment to ask those. Don't be shy. If you have any questions about anything to do with core technique, I'm more than happy to touch that more. This is just really just an introduction to a concept where basically we practice the very core elements of our playing. This is basically the most important and most efficient way to become a better guitar player, is to take the things that we do all the time and train them separately. Say, for example, I know that if you're practicing tennis, for example, it's very important to develop a very good backhand, forehand, and so on. And you have to repeat things, and you have to repeat simple things until they're just really perfect. Because this is then all these little core movements that we program. When you're playing the piece, or any piece of music, or you're playing a scale or whatever, all of a sudden it gets complex. You don't think about the very core element. But we need to get into those and look at those separately. This is a really firm way to become a better guitar player. Brian, thank you. It's a great tip. Thank you so much. Go Johannes, Andrea, thank you. I'm curious about the frets on your guitar. They don't appear to be straight. Yes, this is... there's been other live streams and there's coming more information about it. This is the True Temperament fretting system for super accurate intonation. And this is for anyone who's getting into this, you know how lovely and amazing it is, because you're able to play much more in tune, no matter if you're going high, low. It just opens a lot of possibilities to do cool stuff on the guitar and be more accurate in tuning. Can we download your music? Well, there we have a lot of scores on sale on the website. Also, if you're interested in this particular things about technique, in the next few weeks I will release some free articles also talking about other subjects like rest stroke, free stroke, and also next week, of course, we're going to move on with something that is very important, which is the scales. All right, so of course with my students, the first thing I always want to work on is the core exercises. And again, if somebody's interested in becoming my students, we have the 20% off if you buy the 5 lesson bundles for February. So if you're interested, please make use of that. Also, if you have any questions, you can just send a message. In those lessons, I will teach you the core exercises, among other things. Of course, there's time to do other things. But in 5 sessions, we're able to pretty much have you understand very well the core set of my sort of technique method, you could say. Thanks for this session from Marshall. Do you do rest stroke with these two? Do you mean the very last one? Yes, we do. These ones we do rest stroke and free stroke. I did mention I'm going to release an article about that too. There's a lot to say about free stroke and rest strokes, and we should not be confused about this. It's basically something we need to learn to do both. So both rest stroke and free stroke needs to be included in, of course, our daily practice. Of course, when it comes to the very first exercise, which was prepare, pluck, relax. I'm going to show that one again. Here, we don't start with this one. We're not doing rest strokes because we could, but it won't have exactly the same effect, because what we want to do is go all the way inside and then really train that relaxation. And of course, from a rest stroke, we can do exactly the same thing, but somehow it's not as obvious as when we do it with the free stroke. But when it comes to the speed burst, free and rest stroke, free strokes and rest strokes, There's a lot to say about rest strokes and how to use those. Of course, they're great sort of musical expressions also. They just kind of have another color. Of course, we can train our free stroke to sound pretty much the same as the rest stroke, but the rest strokes have a lot of wonderful things, like it also creates a kind of stability because the finger becomes like a pivot onto the next string, for example. And certain notes, as we program our sort of fingering and our interpretation, I like on strong notes, I like to program myself to always make a rest stroke there, for example. If that notes really needs to be loud and the other notes need to be less loud, I could, achieve the same thing, but because I program myself to the free and rest strokes, like I'm programming in musical effectuation too. And then of course what happens with rest strokes is we have to be careful because it damps the string under. So for example, if you want the G in this case from the third string, if that should keep ringing, then I can't. If then example where we can't use the rest stroke, for example. All right, careful in a chord, for example. You do, if I then do, see, this is for example a resolution. All right, this now what I'm doing a rest stroke here, and that's musically not so satisfying because actually you want that resolution to be quiet. So it would just be kind of counterproductive to use the rest stroke there, because even if I try to play that rest stroke gently, most likely it's going to stick out rather than... Right? So that's a little bit about rest strokes and free strokes. Awesome explanation from Eero. Thank you so much. Thank you, Johannes, for the basics. From Harry. From Regina, it's amazing how much the technique improves with doing this exercise and taking lessons with Johannes. Thank you so much, Regina. Regina is one of my students, and she's been going through these core exercises and doing very well. So, thank you. Brian, whoa, those frets are real. It's not a camera problem. No, not this time. We don't have a camera problem luckily today. And yeah, this is not faked. It's a weird thing with the true temperament frets. I mean, there are also other solutions made historically where you have little frets in different positions just to increase the accuracy, because basically each string has such a different pressure that when we press it down, the action, it just reacts in such a different way that to really get it more in tune, you really need to move those frets around. And what I love about true temperament, of course, is that it's in one, you see they're bended, it's in one go. So I don't feel them as individual frets, I feel them as one fret. I have a whole other video actually on YouTube and on Facebook where I do a whole comparisons between, I have the same guitar made, it's the same model, everything, same maker, and it's one with true temperament and one without, and you can hear with and without and with and without. And at first you might feel it's sort of like there's a difference, but the more you get into this difference become more and more bothering, and especially it opens so many possibilities to do things high up in position, and where normally I would be scared often to go too high. But as you can hear here, this is pretty much pretty spot on in tune. So it's just wonderful. As I'm listening back to recordings with and without, for me it is like that sort of clarity of pitch. It's just like anything else. It's just it helps also with the projection. I feel the music can project and be heard better again, because it's like you have something that is slightly out of tune, like a piano, although it's subtly out of tune. It just makes it unclear, and there's something about true temperament that just gives a kind of clarity, and it's like I can go deeper into the music somehow. At least that is my personal experience. Well, thank you guys for joining in to this session. And actually, I hope you can join in next week as well. And next week, I'm going to go in talking more about scales. And that's something a lot of people go, oh no, that sounds boring. But it's a whole new approach. And I hope with this way of looking at scales, you will find it much more fun than you ever did before. Actually, most of my students that I work with my kind of scale method, they get surprised how much fun it is, and and people are surprised how they end up wanting to do more and more scales. So no big promises there, but this is of course, for me, I think scale playing is, as the core exercises, is really the important thing to create your. This is your building blocks that you're going to build everything on top, everything you go on there. Now, when it comes to a more kind of musical approach, the next step is the scales. But of course, these exercises we're doing, they're purely technical. They purely deal with movements and so on. But when we practice scales, and we do it in the way that I recommend, we really involve ourselves into the fretboard and into the music. And well, because that's basically what it is. We have an octave, and there's A and an A, and music is what we do in between there. So this is our Western scales that, you know, it's the foundation to most of the music we play. Even if it's atonal, very often it's going out of the scale more than anything else. So it's sort of like more than just technique. It's technique, but it's also like learning. It's kind of a musical training to do scales. It's like incredible. So I hope you can join me next week for that. And thank you so much for today. And I wish you a fantastic